just stopping in the rain, especially, you know, then it wasn't like he was trying to run to get out of the rain, and I had never seen him before. Didn't look like he was exercising.
Where was he standing at when he stopped?
Right in front of 14th Street.
On the sidewalk or in the grass area?
The grassy area.
Right in the grassy area?
Yes.
Okay. That's about right in front of where the car is?
Yes, sir.
And then you just...
I drove past him.
Okay.
And I went to the clubhouse.
All right.
Up here on the right-hand side.
And parked up there?
Yes, sir.
And what was his... Naturally, you're good. Naturally, he left. He caught up to you up here, or...?
Yes, I called the non-emergency line, and when I got through, I parked at the clubhouse.
All right.
And they asked me, you know, where I was, and I told them the clubhouse, and I think I gave them the address to the clubhouse.
Where'd you park at?
Right up here next to that green truck. I don't think that truck was there, but I just pulled up.
Okay. So you just pulled in here?
Yes, sir.
And this is where you got out?
No. This is where I just stopped to call, and then he walked past me, and he kept looking at my car, and still looking around at the houses and stuff. So then the dispatcher said, where did he go? What direction did he go in? And I said, I don't know. I lost, because he cut down here and made a right. I guess it's Twin Trees Lane. He made a right in there, and they said, well, what direction did he go in? And I said, I don't know. I can't see him. And they said, can you get to somewhere where you can see him? And I said, yeah, I can. So I backed out.
All right.
And I made this right here. And I left here. I parked right about where that sign is in the yard.
In front of the Ford truck?
Yes, and I saw him standing right about here. And I saw him walking back that way and then cut through the back of the houses. He looked back and he noticed me and he cut back through the houses. I was still on the phone with non-emergency. And then he came back and he started walking up towards the grass and then came down and circled my car. And I told the operator that. He was circling my car. I didn't hear if he said anything.
Right.
But he had his hand in his waistband. And I think I told the operator that. And they said, where are you? And I could not remember the name of the street because I don't live on this street.
Right.
Retreat View Circle goes in a circle.
Right.
And I said, I don't know. And he goes, we need an address. And I said, I don't know an address. I think I gave them my address. And they said, give us directions to get to you. And I said, if you tell the police to go straight at the clubhouse and make a left, my truck will be there. And again, they asked me where he went, what direction he went in. And I said, I don't know. And then I thought to get out and look for a street sign.
Right.
So I got out of my car and I started walking.
Right. Go ahead.
Oh. I was still on the phone with non-emergency and I started walking.
Okay.
Down this way. And because I didn't see a street sign here, but I knew if I went straight through that that's Retreat View Circle, and I just give him an address because he said, just give me the address of the house here in front of him. And there's no address because this is the back of the house. So I walked straight through here, and I didn't see him at all. I was walking, and I was still on the phone with the non-emergency.
Okay.
I got to about here, and I had a flashlight with me.
Okay.
The flashlight was dead though, and I looked around and I didn't see anybody. And I told non-emergency, I said, you know what? He's gone. He's not even here.
Right.
So I still thought I could use their address, so I walked all the way through. actually walked all the way to the street, and I was going to give them this address, and they said, well, if he's not there, do you still want a police officer? And I said, yes. And they said, do you still want a police officer? And I said, yes. And they said, are you following him? Oh, I'm sorry, back there, they said, are you following him? And I said, yes, because I was, in the area. And they said, we don't need you to do that. And I said, okay. So that's when I walked straight through here to get the address so that I could meet the police officer. And then they said, I said, he's not here. They said, do you still want him to come? And I said, yes. And they said, where do you want him to come to? And I said, you know what, just tell him to meet me at my truck next to the clubhouse. If you go straight into the clubhouse and makes a left, I have a Honda Ridgeline, silver Honda Ridgeline is parked right there. I'll meet him right there. So then I started walking back. I passed here, I looked, I didn't see anything again, and I was walking back to my truck. And then when I got to right about here, he yelled from behind me to the side of me. He said, yo, you got a problem? And I turned around, and I said, no, I don't have a problem, man.
Where was he at?
He was about there, but he was walking towards me.
This direction here?
Yes, sir. Like I said, I was already past that, so I didn't see exactly where he came from. But he was about where you were.
Okay.
And I said, no, I don't have a problem. And I went to go grab my cell phone, but I left it in a different pocket. I looked down in my pant pocket, and he said, you got a problem now. And then he was here, and he punched me in the face.
Right here?
Right up around here.
Okay.
To be honest,
That's fine.
I don't remember exactly.
That's fine.
I think I stumbled, and I fell down, he pushed me down, somehow he got on top of me.
On the grass or on the cement?
It was more over towards here. I think I was trying to push him away from me, and then he got on top of me somewhere around here. And that's when I started screaming for help. I started screaming, help, help, as loud as I could. And then is when he grabbed me. Oh, I tried to sit up, and that's when he grabbed me by the head and tried to slam my head down.
Were you on the cement or on
No, my body was on the grass. My head was on the cement.
Because you were basically facing this way?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's as best as I could feel through my jacket. I felt like my body was on the grass and my head was on the cement, and he just kept slamming it. And I kept yelling, help, 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 as loud as I could. He put his hand on his nose, on my nose, and his other hand on my mouth. He said, shut the fuck up. And then I tried squirming again, because all I could think about was when he was hitting my head against it, felt like my head was going to explode, and I thought I was going to lose consciousness. So I tried to squirm so that I could get, because he only had a small portion of my head on the concrete. So I tried to squirm off the concrete. And when I did that, somebody here opened the door. And I said, help me, help me. And they said, I'll call 911. I said, no, help me. I need help. And I don't know what they did, but that's when my jacket moved up and I had my firearm on my right side hip. My jacket moved up, and he saw it. I feel like he saw it. He looked at it, and he said, you're going to die tonight, motherfucker. And he reached for it, but he reached, like I felt his arm going down to my side, and I grabbed it, and I just grabbed my firearm, and I shot him. One time.
After you shot him, keep on going, what did he say?
After I shot him, he like sat up.
You're still in this position here, basically.
Yes, sir.
You're down here. You shot him so he's in the grass.
Yes, sir. He was on top of me like this. I shot him. And I didn't think I hit him because he sat up and he said, oh, you got me. You got it. You got me. You got it. Something like that. So I thought he was just saying, I know you have a gun now. I heard it. I'm giving up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I pushed him off me or he fell off me. Either way, I got on top of him and I pushed his arms apart. And I said,
Kind of flipped him over?
I don't remember how I got on top of him. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
But I got on his back and I moved his arms apart because when he was
face down then?
Yes, face down, and I was on his back. And then somebody came with a flashlight, and I thought it was a police officer. So I said, "Are you the police?" And I still had my handgun out, and I told him, I said, "Are you the police?" And my gun's right here. And he goes, "No, I'm not. I'm calling the police." And I said, "Don't call the police. Help me restrain this guy." And he said, "I'm calling the police. I'm calling the police." And I said, "I already called. They're on their way. They're coming. I need your help." And then's when the police officer came around. I saw the police officer. I stood up and I holstered my weapon. And he said, "Who shot him?" And I said, "I did." And I put my hands up. I said, "I did." And I don't know if he told me to. I just automatically turned my back to him. And I lifted my shirt and I said, "My gun's right there." And I told him a few times, I said, "My gun's right there." And he goes, "Okay, I understand. I just need you to keep your hands up." And he put the handcuffs on me, and then he took my firearm from me.
Questions?
I don't have anything else that
No, sir.
you got no idea where he came from, or if he was over in this area? You walked by here, you never saw him?
No, I didn't see him at all. I looked as I was on the phone with the non-emergency. I looked, and I didn't see him at all. And I said, "He's gone." I think I said something to the
What was lighting about that time?
It's dark.
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 Yeah,
We fight with that
None
all
of the
the
porch
time.
lights were on? Nothing out back here?
No.
It's real dark. We're gonna recount to 7:30. See, get it better. So 7:15 was 7, right? 7:15.
I could look at my phone.
Yeah, that's good.
The only thing I saw was was on my front door, that from Sanford PD, that he lived in the neighborhood. I have a broken nose. She said I could use stitches, but she'd rather not put them in, as long as I didn't mess with my head, because the skin was already healing nicely. She said she didn't have to put stitches in right away.
Emergency room or your primary care?
My primary care.
Does it give you the African curtains or anything?
Pain medicine, and she gave me a referral for an ENT, because she said that the swelling wouldn't let them do anything to my nose right now. But once the swelling went down, if I had a deviated septum or a disfigured septum, they would be able to fix it, but there's nothing they could do right now.
Okay. Let's go back to your house. We'll talk over there. Let me see what this person has to say. I'll meet you back over there in a second. Let's see what this person has to say. Will it help as far as your injuries documented from something like that, if possible? If not,
I'll ask her for them.
Yeah.
She made note of everything.
Let me write them down with this.
Yeah, just like turn around, get the back of his head, butterfly.
Do you want me to move? I said, do you want me to move or are you moving? I'm sorry. Moving also.
It's always better to have you say a couple of words to her.
Oh, she said I had a
Brother saw something that we needed to know. It's always better to have
sprained SI. Something about my sciatic something. And she gave me just this scrapes there. I don't think so. No, I had a long sleeve shirt and a jacket on top. So. No, he was just focused on my head. I bruising there. There's one there. There's a cut
So the
here.
swelling went down, because I remember yesterday, I remember seeing swelling around right here, and I don't see it now.
And my wife is an RN student, so she went to work. It's good to keep her busy, I guess.
Investigator Serena, I want to move now to February the 29th. Did you have further contact with the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And was that at the police, Sanford Police Department?
Yes, it was.
Was an interview conducted of the defendant on that day?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And were his Miranda rights given by Investigator Singleton?
Yes, they were.
Okay. Your Honor, I don't, in terms of time frame, we're going to have play a recording now. It's about 45 minutes or so, so I'm fine, but I don't know.
Recess before we begin the recording, or just go forward? You're good? Okay.
Your Honor, at this time, we would move into evidence, State Exhibit 181. I'm sorry, that was already, it is, I apologize, 182.
Okay, no objection?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, 182 will come into evidence.
And Your Honor, we would ask that the court read the same instructions that we previously.
I need it from the clerk. Ladies and gentlemen, at the direction of the court, certain portions of defendant's interview with the Sanford Police Department investigators have been excised or redacted based on legal determinations made by the court. The parts excised or redacted are not relevant, and you are not to concern yourselves with why this occurred or with the content of any excised or redacted portions.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
You had previously testified about a recording that was audio. This one is actually videotaped, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
There are parts of it, though, that apparently you have a recorder too that's only audio. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you're not in the room, I guess there's audio parts, and then you also, at the end, leave the room with the defendant and I believe Investigator Singleton too, where it's only audio because you go somewhere else where there's not an ability to videotape this.
Yes, sir.
But you're back in the room? So I have to read them to you again, and then I'll just have you sign them like you did before. It's just a different format. The other one was on a cord, and this was on something else. The Constitution requires I inform you, that you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used in court as evidence against you. You're entitled to talk to an attorney now or have them present now or anytime during questioning. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you without cost. Do you desire to consult with an attorney first or have one during this interview? Okay. If at any time hereafter you wish to remain silent or have an attorney present, all questioning will be stopped. Okay. Has anyone at any time threatened, coerced, promised you anything in order to induce you to make a statement? Okay. Do you understand your rights? Yes. Okay. And do you want to talk with us at this time? Yes. Okay. And Senator doesn't mean you're not going home. You got to go home regardless tonight. But I didn't even know. Just don't want you to think, I'm sorry. Thank you. I mean, because normally it's because you're in custody. You're not really in custody. You can't be voluntarily, right? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Any witnesses? And how you're in your... Better. You look better. I'll be right back. heck, he's the lead investigator.
It doesn't have to do with the investigation.
Oh, yeah, man.
When that neighbor came up and was talking to you, you got up next to him. Did you get up next to him because you thought he was like... Did you position yourself strategically like that?
No, I was just trying to hear what he was saying.
Oh.
He seemed nervous. I didn't think he was like gonna beat you up and that, is that what you mean?
I thought you were... Because the four of you kind of got in between.
That's it, natural.
Oh.
Do it so many times that way.
When you kept your firearm away from him, I think.
Yeah, that's normal. You get used to doing that. Well, I'm going to when you try to come in.
This investigator surrounded the Sanford Police Department. Today's date is Wednesday, February the 29th, 2012. We locate the Sanford Police Department, 815 West 13th Street, City of Sanford, Seminole County, Florida. The time is now 17:19 hours. That's 5:19 p.m. Here to discuss case number 2012-501136, the shooting death of a Trayvon Benjamin Martin, which occurred on February 26th. It was a Sunday at approximately 7:30 p.m.
Let me make sure the record's clear. That prior 20 seconds or so, actually, are you outside the interview room and are you recording on your recorder before you walk in?
Yes, sir, I am.
And when you come into the interview room, does that recorder stay on in addition to the videotape that's going on?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
What happened this evening is that you essentially saw somebody who you in good faith that was doing something wrong. Yes. And you ever heard of yourself? Yes. Okay, that's what happened. This person was not doing anything bad. You know the person that died? Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Benjamin Martin. He was born in 1995, February the 5th. He was 17 years old. I give it folks that care. In his possession, we found a can of iced tea and a bag of Skittles and about $40 in cash. Do you have any prior training in law enforcement at all? I mean, any kind of...
Just the legal side of it,
constitutional law? Okay, so you went through okay. But as far as identifying people and stuff like that, as far as what you look forward to make them really suspicious?
just when we organized an annual neighborhood watch event, they told us, like with I think a PowerPoint presentation, and flyers.
I wasn't privy to that, but if you guys continue neighborhood watch, typically speaking, at nighttime, the garb is black on black on black with a black hoodie. Now this guy, dark gray hoodie, so it was dark, but his pants were beige. Not quite your, prime suspect type, but I listened to the phone call that he made to the non-emergency line. Okay. It's, what time, what was going through at the time?
2 or 3 weeks prior to that, I had seen somebody looking in the window of the house that he was in front of.
Was he right back?
Black.
Okay.
And the guy that lives there, I know he's actively watching. He's Caucasian. The guy, the suspicious looking guy, went up to the house. I was walking my dog around the neighborhood, and he walked up to the house, and he was smoking. I'm sorry, he wasn't smoking at that time. He turned around, and he saw me walking my dog. So he lit a cigarette and leaned up against the wall, pretending like he lived there. And so I walked past him, and I called non-emergency. And I got under a street lit, and asked me if I could see where he went, or if he went inside the house. I said no. And they said, can you get to where you can see? I really don't want to move from this area. Oh, and they needed the address, and I don't know why the adrenaline's rushing, 1,000 things went through my mind. I gave them what I thought was my address, further down in the 1900 building, instead of the 1400. And when I walked to see the address, I saw the end of the house, and he was at the side of the house looking in the window. He either threw or spit he looked at me, threw or spit his cigarette out, and then ran around the back. So I told non-emergency, I think it was still non-emergency at that time, that, I don't know where you guys are coming from, but he's around back. And I don't know where he went. And I stayed in front of the house where the streetlight was, and I waited and I waited and I waited, and then it hit me. The police came and drove past me, and then is when it hit me that I gave them what I thought was my address instead of that address. So I called back and I said, the correct address. The police officer came back. I didn't even see, because the house was completely dark. The window was open, so, and the front door wasn't, the police later told me the front door was unlocked. All the windows were open in the house. And the front door was unlocked, the garage was open. So they went in, they cleared the house. Oh, they asked me for the owner's name and phone number. And then they asked him for permission. They went inside the house, blah, 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 blah. Then the next week, not at that building, but at the next building on the end unit, the guy I saw broke in, apparently stole a laptop, from what I understand, ran off, but one of the maintenance guys saw him and was able to give the police the direction of where he was going, and he was actually arrested. So when I saw him in the same area in front of the guy's house that I know that tends to keep it unsecured, and he was looking into the house, I just thought something doesn't fit right here.
And this is the one prior to this one, right?
No, I'm sorry. That's why I felt this was suspicious.
Okay. What did you see Trayvon doing that caught you as being suspicious?
He was looking at the house intently, and then...
What, the same house?
The same house that I had called about before.
Did he stop?
He stopped.
In front of the house?
He stopped in front of the house, and then I drove... There was a car, backing up, so I slowed down, and then I drove around him, and he kept looking at me, and then when I passed, it was raining, and I said, you know what, he's not walking briskly to get out of the rain. He wasn't, he didn't look like a marathon runner that is active and the trains in the rain. He was just walking slowly and in the grass, not on the sidewalk, and I just said, something's off. So that's why I called an emergency.
Okay. You got a lot of scrutiny over this, correct? Okay. The profiling aspect of the whole thing. Had this person been right, would you feel the same way?
Yes.
We're in the process of going through his phone. We got a little bit of the battery dies. We're still working on that. There's a possibility that whatever happened was he knew that him was caught on videotape. And this is going to be our final interview. I'm not talking anymore after this. We're good. You know what I'm saying? That right there. That's his cell phone.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's a camera. There's a very strong possibility that the phone is either going to help you or, not help you. And that's why I got to clarify a few things about what happened out there. How tall are you, Mr. Stewart?
5'8", 194.
Okay. Trevor's a 6 foot, about 150 pounds. That's a gunshot you put in him. We're right through the dark. Okay. Skinny kid. Obviously, like I said, a lot of questions are being brought up. Like I said, if there's anything that you haven't said that might be in that phone,
I prayed to God that someone would videotape it, or that the neighborhood had put up a video camera that I didn't know about or something.
Now, tonight guarantee, but like I said, it's a possibility. I'm hoping myself. Another thing too, as far as 25 and 30 punches, I've been stuck with a lot of people, not quite consistent with your injuries. You do have injuries, however. How did he manage to bang your head? Okay, correct me if I misunderstood what you said here as far as slamming the head into the concrete, into the cement thing. So how did he do that?
I was on my back after he first punched me. I don't know if I immediately fell down, or he threw me down, or I was stumbling. I ended up on my back, and he was on top of me, mounted, and he kept punching me. And then when I started yelling for help, that's when he grabbed my head and started just slamming.
Grabbed your head by your ears, by how to say?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Every time he punched my nose, it just...
How many times? Okay. How many times you got punched in the nose? A couple.
I don't remember.
Okay, you never got a chance to hit him. You have no defense wounds here. Any bruising on your body at all? No broken ribs, no fractured ribs, none of that?
No.
Pain? No?
My doctor said I sprained my SI. It feels like a big bruise, but it's deep in there. So.
Is that what it was like this happened?
Pardon?
Did you see his face like this when that happened?
No, sir.
Okay. He's young, tall, and skinny. 17. That's him again. I'm sure he's going to have to someday meet his family. That's just how these things work eventually. And they have a lot of questions, obviously. And I want to prepare you for that. Because like I said, I'm basically out of it after this. This is, you're glad it's on video. That's a good thing. And like I said, I don't mean to torture you with this, but you gotta see this before you see it anywhere else. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And the only thing that you don't have is the authority to go ahead and stop legally. You follow? You're working in the color of an absolutely private citizen. I don't know if this is going to help at this point, but had you told your son that you were, they would have watched, they were just wondering what the hell he was doing when he came to your car, we probably wouldn't be here right now. Did that ever register to you at all? I mean, I got to try to get into your head somehow, and like I said, I answer to his family right now. Why didn't it occur to you to go ahead and tell him? I mean, a lot of what we do out here in law enforcement is basically a lot of talking and a lot of casual encounters, consensual encounters, we call them. Yeah, we might be trying to take something wrong, but it's just to get a feel for the person. Did it ever occur to you to go ahead and actually ask this person what he was doing out there?
No, sir.
Was it fear, precaution, safety, all the above, or
I didn't want to confront him, and this wasn't my job.
Okay. So, but not your job's not to really do anything when it comes like that. Mostly your job to monitor a neighbor, but for future reference, I mean, you usually dismiss a lot of this kind of insanity. I mean, had that been done, and that's, and from our vantage point, you've had two opportunities to identify yourself as somebody who was actually not meant to do them harm. Problem is that what if in his mind's eye, which I can't get into because he's passed, that he perceives you as a threat. Okay? He perceives you as a threat. He has every right to go and defend himself, especially when you reach into your pocket to grab the cell phone. Okay? What I'm gravitating to here is to say that, like I said, could that have been a possibility for him getting so enraged at you? What do you think his mindset was? What made him snap? Can you fill in that blank?
The other thing was when he walked up to my car, he reached in his waistband and held his hand there.
He was probably holding his iced tea.
I don't...
That's fine, but did he say anything?
It was raining, so I had my windows up and I was on the phone. I didn't...
How close to your car did you get?
Maybe a car length?
What do you think set him off?
I don't know.
I'm still not understanding. When he walked up to your car, why didn't you say anything to him?
I guess fear. I didn't want to confront him. The same reason I didn't...
You were afraid of him?
Yes, ma'am.
Then do you say he ran?
Yes.
Then you get out of your car and run after him?
I
I didn't run after him, no. I walked to find a street name or a street sign, and he had already cut out between the houses. So I knew that if I walked straight through that little sidewalk, I knew that that was my street, that I had to retreat circle. But when I was walking around, my truck lights stay on, and he wasn't there.
So was that portion of that T that you could see straight through lit up by your truck light?
It was lit up partially because it only stays on for a few, I don't know how long, but it stays on for a while.
When you got out, you shut the car off and took your keys with you?
Yes, ma'am. And you didn't, okay, and at that point you didn't see him. You did say on the phone call he's running, and you got in your car, but yet you decided to go ahead to orientate yourself. How many streets are in that subdivision? I think 3. Okay. And you're part of the homeowners association. Are you head of the neighborhood watch? Yes, sir. Okay. Once again, something else I gotta try to explain away. How do you not know that 3 streets are in within 3 years? Well, you have really no idea. How do I explain that one away that you're saying that you didn't know which street was one of the 3 streets that live in the community that you're the head of the homeowners, the head of the, you know what I'm saying? How do I do that? I mean, to be honest with you, I have a bad memory anyway. That's why I gave you. So that might explain why I didn't know the street that you were at. And I just have a terrible memory. I mean, when they asked me the address, I don't know why I always think my address is 1960 and it's 1950. I don't know why. That's almost confusing in the whole place. I had a hard time orienting myself also. I mean, I gotta, okay. But one thing I can tell you is that the streets, those middle streets, I can't even remember the names now, but I know that they changed names. Once it branches left, it's a different one. Once it branches right, it's a different name, so. Well, I guess that's going to be one of the issues that I have to clarify, and that's why we're here today. Your holster. What kind of holster do you have? This is just one I bought at a gun show, like a nylon inner waistband. Like a little mics with yes, sir. With the nylon, the retainer? It did not have a retainer, no. So it's an unsecured holster, basically? Okay. No locking mechanism, no safety feature, nothing. It was inside your pants? Yes, sir. Okay. 9mm inside your pants. He was mounted on he was mounted on your upper chest, or, I mean, at what point were you able to free your waist side to go ahead and pull out your weapon? When he was mounted on me, but he had pressure on my nose and my mouth suffocating me, and when he let go of my mouth and started reaching down my side and said, "You're gonna die tonight," I didn't need my hand anymore because he let go of my mouth. I don't remember if I was still screaming or not. But that's when I grabbed his hand and I grabbed my firearm and fired. So it's once he let go that I realized I didn't need my hand and he was going to kill me. So what did it suffocate you for? Felt like sitting there forever, I'm sure. Felt like hours, but I don't know. Is there a full size line or a small line? Compact, okay. And you were able to overpower him as far as like holding his wrist. You gained wrist, we call it wrist control. You gained wrist control on him basically, and you were able to basically liberate both hands. Yes. Okay. And you raised it up. Do you remember hitting him with the pistol? No, sir. Distance-wise? I just remember not wanting to hit my own hand that was holding his, so I went past my hand and I fired in his direction. Okay, this is what or anything? Yeah. Some cold? No, nothing like this is fine. I did remember that. You said that the operator told me to stay in my car. They didn't tell me to stay in my car. They said, "Are you following him?" And I was walking where he had walked, and I said, "Yes." And they said, "We don't need you to do that." And I said, "Okay."
when he comes up to your car, you're telling them, right, that he's reaching his waist down? So what do you think is the possibility that he has?
Well, the guy 2 weeks prior did the same thing when he saw me. He like put his hand in his jacket and watched me walk by, and then he lit up a cigarette. So I thought that he was just trying to look tough or intimidate.
You didn't think he had a weapon?
No, not at the time.
You thought he was just trying to bluff you?
Yes, ma'am.
And did that scare you? The bluff?
No.
You ever worked security before?
No, sir.
You worked in a parliament time,
Oh, yes.
right? Okay. Was that painful or you just...
It wasn't professional
Okay.
or anything. It was
Okay. There's a thing called challenging somebody. Now, you didn't challenge this person while he was out next to your car or something like that. You sound kind of frustrated on the phone conversation. Everybody's going to hear these things, you know, and you went out there just like you said, and you hung up 911, and right after that, you turned around and he was.
No, sir.
Okay.
I walked past where he went through to go to Retreat Circle.
This would have been heading back to his house where he was staying.
I have no idea what
That's where he was going. I'm just letting you know that.
But when I walked and I saw he wasn't there anymore, they asked me for my address, and I gave them my address. And I said, I don't really like giving out my address because they may know where I go or where I live.
So he would have been in earshot of you thought, but you couldn't see him.
I could not see him at all.
But how close could he? Okay.
I didn't like anyone.
That's fine. That's fine.
And they said that around that time is when they said, we don't need you to follow him. So I continued walking straight to my street. And when I came back, I was coming back and I passed the sidewalk that he went to.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see where he came from, but he was not there. And I told the non-emergency, he's not here. And they said, you still want us to send the car? And I said, yes.
So, sir, was that there? Yes, was it right? Yeah.
Yeah, you were talking, you just had a discussion about meeting at the mailbox,
Yeah.
and then you said, never mind, I have them call my phone, and I'll tell them where I'm at.
Oh, I thought I told them because I first pulled up at the clubhouse, and I gave them that address, if I remember serves me, and then I told them my location according to the clubhouse. I said, if you go straight through the clubhouse and to the left, you'll see my truck there, and I think I gave them a description of my truck, either the color, the make, and the model, and when they said, where do you want them to meet you, I said, just have them meet me back at my truck, and that's when I was walking towards my truck.
Okay, so when you approached Shrewsbury, or where the fuck's your problem? Correct?
Something to that effect.
Did you use the word homie?
I don't remember.
Did you at that time ever say to him, I'm neighborhood watch?
No.
Did it not occur to you?
I always said, I don't have a problem, and I started backing away from him.
But you kind of did have a problem, that's why you were following him, right? You had a concern with him.
I was scared.
You were scared to tell them that you had a concern? That you were neighborhood watch? You were afraid to tell him that?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but these are the questions you're going to ask me, so
No, I
I'm going to have to give
understand.
them an answer.
I was
It seemed
scared.
like the perfect opportunity to say, look, I'm neighborhood watch, I don't recognize you, are you staying here?
Like I said, he came up out of nowhere. I didn't even see him. I was walking back to my car thinking I was going to meet a police officer there. So when he popped up, he just caught me off guard. I didn't think that I'd tell him.
But can you see how that would maybe frighten him? You've been following him now for a whole bar?
What do you mean, on foot or?
Yeah, you're watching him. Okay. He makes it clear to you, he sees you, he walks up to your car, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
He was making it clear to you, I recognize you're following me.
I didn't know if he was doing that or he was doubling back what he was doing.
No, but the reason why he said, well, you have a problem was because, for no other reason, because he let you were following him. In other words, you were just walking randomly, he didn't walk up to you and say, I got a fucking problem. He didn't try to rob you, he didn't try to, he's asking what the fuck's your problem. Now, could it possibly you said, I don't have a fucking problem?
No.
None?
I didn't. No.
Well, your reason going law enforcement because you haven't agreed to justice?
No, I wanted to before then.
Why'd you get, well, did you have the aspiration of doing that?
Being a police officer? Yes, sir.
Do you think he was scared? Do you think he thought you were trying to hurt him? I mean, because even in the tape you say he's running. First of all, he can see you're following him. That would be the reason he would come to your car, let you know, I see you.
Pull in my car, right?
And then, instead of having a conversation with him, you put up your window.
Yes.
So that might seem creepy to him. That someone's following him, and when he tries to talk to him to maybe see what's going on, he creeps. And then when he runs, you follow him. Feeling like that. Maybe you're frightened him, I don't know.
I wish I knew.
Oh, I know. It's when people are following you or trying to talk to you and trying to ask you what you're doing, and who are they? Why do they have a right to ask me anything? Who are they? You know what I mean? You're trying to keep people from coming in your neighborhood and bothering people. Yet you could give the appearance that you're asking people for information and you haven't even told them who you are.
We're not supposed to.
I think that's what you said you'd done that, right? You never told him who you were.
No. I didn't have the opportunity.
Well, you could have told him. Right? When he came to your car, instead of putting up your window, you could have set on neighborhood watch.
He wasn't, like, next to my window or anything.
No, I thought you told me he circled your whole car.
He did, but I don't know if he circled the entire car, but he came around to the side. But he wasn't, like, within earshot, and I didn't want to confront him. I was happy he was staying in the area so the police could question him. In the past, when I got involved in this back in August, it was because my wife saw people fleeing the place they had robbed, and ever since then, you know, whenever we see someone suspicious, we call, but feeling staying in the neighborhood inside and out, you guys come real quick. Sometimes you show up with 3 cars, but they're gone. I have a wife at home. I'm not chasing anyone. I think even when 2-3 weeks ago, when he went around the back of the house, they asked me, "Can you see him behind the house?" And I, no, I'm not going back there either. I waited on the street, and actually when the cop passed me, I tried fighting him down, but I guess he was.
This on a previous call.
Yes, ma'am. 2-3 weeks ago.
Oh, for the one you were talking about earlier with the kids looking in the windows?
Yes, ma'am. And I tried flying the cop down, thinking that.
I didn't know the guy that went to the next one was the same guy that you had seen.
I recognized his face.
Oh, so you saw his face pretty good?
Yes, ma'am. I was walking, and I walked right past him.
You didn't think this kid was the same kid, did you?
No, that kid was arrested.
Okay. But they get out. I mean, you didn't think that this was possibly the same kid coming back.
No, ma'am.
At the time of the encounter with him, was there anything in your hand?
I think my flashlight.
Okay, your flashlight. Was it working or was it not working? It was dead. It was dead. Okay, it was not clicking on.
Yes.
It was your right hand or left hand?
I don't recall.
Okay. And you looked away from him, is that what happened? When you got punched, or did you see the punch coming?
No, I walked past where he went through, and I started walking back to my car, and that's when he yelled out, and I turned around.
How far was he away from that? Was he up on you already, or? Can't tell.
I don't recall. As soon as he did that, I started backing up towards my car, and that's when I wanted to call 911 instead of non-emergency.
Do you realize how the way these cases can go?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, how can they go?
Either
know, is this something that, I mean, just say reach right, close your eyes, man. Okay, once you put yourself back in the scene, Sunday night, at 7 o'clock, you're looking at this kid, you're getting out of your car, talking to the dispatcher, you hang up to the dispatcher, okay, give yourself a couple seconds to go ahead and think about what happened after that. Now you're gonna try to act like exactly what happened, okay? I'm gonna be the kids. What the fuck is your problem? You say what you said.
I don't have a problem.
At that point, nothing else was said. Just think.
Yes.
What did you say the first time he hit you?
I don't think I said a thing.
There was no conversation prior. Okay, we're good. Open hands. Nothing at all.
Yes.
Okay. That never works. Just, you know, you gotta try it though.
For me.
It's not happening.
Tell us if you could, do you move now somewhere else? Are you moving now outside of the interview room?
Yes, sir, we're heading to my desk.
Okay. I don't know, we can turn the lights back on because I believe the rest is all audio. And what was the purpose of heading towards your desk now, sir?
So I could play the 911 calls for him.
And are you present and the defendant, Mr. Zimmerman, and then Singleton and a few other investigators or officers are around, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So once you come to my desk, here's George. George, this is Randy, that's Rebecca. Let me grab a chair for George. Let me get a chair. What happened? Grab my chair. W man-made, WWF, I don't know. Okay. Here we go. And I know how to do this part. Okay. This is your 911 call. For your
Police Department, report for Sean. Hey, we've had some break-ins in my neighborhood, and there's a real suspicious guy.
Okay, real suspicious guy. Okay, one more time. Why suspicious?
It was raining. He was looking into the houses, looking behind, looking at me. He wasn't walking quickly to get out of the rain. It didn't look like he was like trying to head home. He didn't look like a hardcore athlete that wanted to like train in the rain or anything. He just looked out of place.
Okay.
Retreat Circle. The best address I can give you is 111 Retreat Circle. This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something.
On drugs, why?
Oh, he just kept looking around, looking behind him, looking, just kept shifting where he was looking.
It's raining, and he's just walking around looking about. Okay, and this guy, is he white, black, or Hispanic? And he looks black. Did you see what he was wearing? Yeah, a dark hoodie, like a gray hoodie, and he was jeans or sweatpants and white tennis shoes.
You see the color of his pants? Okay.
You see him around, and he's just staring. Oh, he's just walking around the area at all the houses. Okay. And now he's just staring at me. Okay, so this 111.
Okay, when you explained it to me, you said you had pulled over initially at the clubhouse, correct? Okay, but it seems so fast, and then I thought you told me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I thought you said they asked you, can you still see him, and you told them you couldn't, and you asked, and they said, well, get to where you could see where he's at. And you told me it's at that point you moved.
Yes.
Now you're saying he's coming up to your car. Does that mean you've already, at this point in the tape, you're already on Twin Tree? Street you didn't know the name of at the time?
Oh, no, I called when I was at the clubhouse.
Okay, but he's walking up to your car now, right?
Yes,
On the
sir.
tape? Because Because you're saying he's walking up. You're talking about when you've already left the clubhouse and now you're around the corner.
No, ma'am.
But you're still at the clubhouse when he does this? Okay.
What? Retrieve or 111? That's the clubhouse. That's the clubhouse. Do you know what he's near the clubhouse right now? Yeah, now he's coming towards me. Okay. He's got his hand in his waistband.
Where are you at now? Are you still at the clubhouse?
I think I'm still at the clubhouse.
Yeah, he's a black male. Okay. How old would you say he was? Got a button on his shirt. Late teens. Late teens, okay. Mm-hmm.
Have you moved yet?
Something wrong.
I don't think so.
You're still in front of the clubhouse?
I think so.
On Retreat Through Circle?
Yes, ma'am. I don't remember even saying he had a button on his shirt.
Wrong with him?
Something's wrong with him.
Yeah, something's wrong with him.
What's that statement, person?
Yeah, he's trying to check me out. He's got something in his hands. I don't know what his deal is.
Okay, where are you at now? You're still in front of the clubhouse?
I don't remember.
Okay, just let me know if he does anything, okay? Yeah, we got him on the line. Just let me know if this guy does anything else. Okay. These assholes, they always get away.
That statement. These assholes. What's behind that?
People that victimize the neighborhood.
Didn't you just tell us from there that a week earlier they made an arrest?
Yes, ma'am.
They don't always get away.
No.
Good point.
Yeah. When you come to the clubhouse, you come straight in and make a
What's
left.
happening now? Are you guys walking now? Is he
Well,
walking?
I was parked where I could see him.
So,
So you're definitely not in front of the clubhouse
No.
anymore at this point.
so you're ahead of him?
No, I was behind him.
Okay. So he walked to your car, then walked on his path, and you were behind him.
Yes, sir. When I was at the clubhouse, he walked.
Are you driving slowly or something?
No, I pulled over and stopped before I called.
Actually, you go past the clubhouse. Okay, it says on the left-hand side from the clubhouse? You go in straight through the entrance, and then you make a left. Yeah, you go straight in, don't turn and make a left. Shit, he's running.
Okay. Full sprint, full long flight, jogging, trotting. Describe the run.
I don't remember. Because I was on the phone. It happened so quickly.
I understand that, George, but like I said, it's if it was a bicycle theft, I could say okay, but it's kind of important. I mean, was he running as to evade you, get away from you? Maybe he got tired of getting wet in the rain. What kind of run was it? I mean, it sounds like he's running as to get away from you.
I don't know why he was running.
But what kind of run was it? Can't say.
I don't know.
Okay.
He's running. Which way is he running?
Okay, is that you getting out of the car?
Yes.
Okay.
So as soon as he runs, you're getting out of the car and following.
When he says which way are you running, I don't know.
Down towards the entrance of the neighborhood. Okay, which entrance is that
At that point, you're out of the car?
I think so.
Okay, so you basically jumped out of the car to see where he was going.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's not fear. All right?
Yes,
That's
sir.
heading towards the back entrance?
I wasn't running.
Are you following us?
What was that you whispered?
Yeah, entrance.
Fucking what?
Punk.
He wasn't a fucking punk.
Are you following us? Yeah, okay, we don't need
Okay.
to do that. Alright, sir, what is your name?
At the point where you said, are you following me? You said, why did you do that? What went through your mind?
He's right.
So you should have stopped and went back to your vehicle.
I still wanted to give him an address.
Yeah, okay, we don't need you to do that. Okay. Alright, sir, what is your name? George. He ran. Alright.
He said he ran again. Okay. This is because you don't see him?
Correct.
So at this point he has to be hiding from you.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't see him.
well, the law of the physics says that he's hiding from you at this point. He could not have made it home. He came back to attack you at that time, so. What's your account is that you don't see him at this point. You're at the T now, right? Here's the pavement. Correct? You're looking down that way, that passage. Where are you at?
Once he told me not to follow him,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't following him. I was just going in the same direction he was. Once he
That's
said,
following.
well, I thought, I mean,
If you were, okay. So you basically wrote it off. I mean,
right. I was on the other side. I was on Retreat View Circle at that time.
okay.
The other day, and again, these are the questions that we're going to have to be able to explain to people. The other day you told me you got out of the car because dispatch was asking your location and you wanted to orient yourself. You did not tell me that you said, oh shit, he's running, and then got out of the car and went that same direction at the same time. See what the problem is?
Yes.
And I asked you, did you look for him? And you told me no. You told me the reason that you got out of your car was to get an address.
Yes.
But you decide to get the address a fraction of a second after you say, oh shit, he's running. And then it sounds like you're running too.
Because it was fast walking.
No, it was just windy.
It was.
George, what's your last name? Zimmerman. George, what's the phone number you're calling from? 407-435.
Where are you at now?
240.
On Retreat View Circle.
Okay.
00. Alright, George, would you have them on the way? Do you want to meet with the officer when they get out there?
Yeah.
Alright, where are you going to meet with them at?
If they come in through the gate, tell them to go straight past the clubhouse.
What are you doing right now?
Walking back to the
And straight past the clubhouse. And
Okay. If I time this portion, this is important, okay? I almost got to reconstruct this.
if they
When you start
come
walking
in
back to
through
your car.
the gate, the back entrance.
Are you following
Now,
them?
you're going towards the retreat
Okay,
view,
we don't
right?
need you to do that.
Okay.
Alright, sir, what is your name?
George. He ran.
Okay, where you at now?
Alright, George, what's your last name?
Retreat View Circle.
Okay. Is that 241? Okay.
Zimmerman.
George, what's the phone number you're calling from?
Okay, welcome back to your car.
407-435-2400.
Alright, George, would you have them on the way? Do you want to meet with the officer when they get out there?
Yeah.
Alright, where are you going to meet with them at?
If they come in through the gate, tell them to go straight past the clubhouse. And straight past the clubhouse and make a left. And then they go past the mailboxes. Look at my truck.
Okay, what address are you parked in front of?
I don't know. It's a cut through, so I don't know the address.
Okay, do you live in the area?
Yeah.
What's your apartment number?
It's a home. It's 1950. Oh crap! I don't want to get it out loud. I don't know where this kid is.
Okay, do you want to just meet with them right near the mailboxes then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Alright, George, I'll let them know to meet you with you out there.
Actually, could you have him call me and I'll tell him where I'm at?
Okay, yeah, that's no problem.
You need my number? You got it.
Yeah, I got it. 407-435-2400.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, no problem. I'll let them know to call you when they're in the area.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
How long is
It's 84 seconds. From the point where you were walking back to your car from Retreat View to Twin Tree, basically.
30 feet.
That's a minute and 20 seconds. You stopped at the T.
No, I walked through. I stopped on Retreat View Circle.
That's where you were standing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you didn't get back into your car?
No, sir.
Why not?
I was...
You're in the rain, you're getting wet, you're on the phone.
Because I was waiting. I had light there where I was at, and I was trying to hit my flashlight. I didn't want to walk back through without light.
Okay. A minute and 20 seconds.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're in the rain getting wet. You've wrote this guy off basically to meet the police. Okay. You see where the obstacle is here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want you to think about that. So I am speaking for you, for everybody. I'm trying to protect you the best I can here.
Yes, sir.
It's a minute and 20 seconds. Doesn't sound like you were saying, well, it doesn't sound like you quite recall exactly what happened at that point, okay? Finish this off here now, do something else. This is all right. Okay.
Okay, can I ask, because my concern is also this. Oh, shit, he's running, and I'm getting out of my car in an instant to make sure I don't lose sight of this guy. That's what it sounds like. Are you following him? Because that's what it sounds like you're doing. That's why he asked you the question. It sounded to the dispatcher likely that you were running. And that's why he asked you that question. Are you following him? And your answer is yes. Okay? But then you get to the other side, and you're concerned about walking past this guy when you've already been chasing him, essentially. And he's telling you to go back to your car, and now you want to pretend, or not pretend, you want us to believe that you're concerned about having a flashlight to move back where you just ran?
You're looking
Trying to
for
catch up
him.
to him. See what I'm saying?
Okay. It sounds like you're looking for him.
You brought a flashlight with you.
Yes, sir.
You wanted to be able to see him.
You want to catch him. You want to catch a bad guy?
It doesn't, that's...
Fuck them punks, you can't get away. Listen, we're outside that interrogation room, okay? We are in a whole different area right here, okay? This is where, you know what I mean, this is why I took you out of there, so you could hear this. So I can recall your memory and let you see if you say walk back to your car and you stood outside your car from it, they're not going to believe anything I got to say. And that's what I'm saying. Is there anything that you need to clarify right now? Did you pursue this kid? Did you want to catch him?
No.
Okay, it's not you.
Why?
It's not what you're about.
Why did you tell me? Never mind, just have them call me when they get here and I'll tell them where I'm
I
at.
was frustrated that I couldn't think of this street name.
But you were going to be back in your car from that distance in less than 15 or 20 seconds. So why would they need to call you?
I felt like I didn't give them an adequate description of where I was from the clubhouse.
Because know what the impression would be is that you're going to continue to look, and when they get here, you should tell them where you're at that point. See what I'm saying? Well, no, never mind.
Just keep
Just
them
tell
out.
them to call me when they get here, and I'll tell them where I'm at. Meaning I might not be at my car, where I just told them I would be.
But now we're here working for you here, okay? That's what you got to open your mind, okay? And if there's anything that needs to be changed, this is it. We can't do this anymore, you know? Let's do this one.
911, do you need police medical? Maybe
You hear that voice in the background?
No, sir.
both, I'm not sure, there's just someone screaming. 911, do you need police medical? Maybe both, I'm not sure, there's
That's
just
you.
someone screaming outside. Hey, what's the address that they're near? 1211 Twin Trees Lane. Twin Trees Lane? Is this in Twin Lake Town, in Sanford? Yeah. Okay, and is it a male or female?
Can you hear
It's
yourself?
a male. And you don't know why?
Doesn't even sound
I don't know why I'm yelling out, but I don't know. Send someone to stop. Okay. Does he look hurt? I can't see him. I don't want to go out there. I don't know what's going on. So they're sending. So you think he's yelling help? Yes. Alright, what is your speaking on the phone?
Okay, right there. He smothered you. Correct. At what point did he smother you? Was it right before you shot him?
Right, yes, sir.
Immediately behind the shot?
time do you need police medical?
I need to give an approximate time we start
I'm
smothering
not
you.
sure. There's just someone screaming outside. Okay, what's the address that they're near? 1211.
That's who you for help.
Twin Trees Lane. Is this in the Twin Lake Town homes in Sanford? Yeah. Okay. And is it a male or female?
Help me, help me.
It sounds like a male. And you don't know why? I don't know why. I think they're yelling help, but I don't know. Send someone to stop. Does he look hurt to you? I can't see him. I don't want to go out there. I don't know what's going on. So there's him there. So you think he's yelling help? Yes. All right. What is your phone number?
Screenshot.
There's gunshot.
Can you recall? At what point the suffocation happened? Prior to you shooting him, he was on you, correct? Okay. And you were able to reach into your holster? You shot him at point blank range. He was on top of you, right?
Yes, sir.
And although that yelling, nobody came out to help you. And I can't pinpoint where you were smothered. That's the problem I'm having. And nobody's saying they saw him smothering you. People were saying they saw you on top of you, but they didn't see about the smothering part. So.
When we're listening to the screaming, it doesn't sound like there's a hesitation in the screaming. It sounds like it's continuous. If somebody who knows, it's going to stop. But we don't hear it stop.
We don't hear him at all either. Is he being quiet? Is he whispering to you or something? Is he calm?
He's like angry.
I don't hear him though.
Is he shouting it or was he?
No, he's on top of me. He's telling me, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up.
And then when he saw you had a gun at that point, you think he might have saw you had a gun when you guys were standing before he punched you? No way, no how? Was it totally concealed under that jacket? You couldn't have got a glimpse of it accidentally? And once again, getting back to the beginning, what was the provocation from punching you other than the fact you were following him that you can think of? Why are you so mad at you?
I've gone through it a million times.
Investigator Serino, at about 52 minutes, when you're playing the recording, you specifically say, "Are you hearing yourself?" And Mr. Zimmerman says, "That doesn't even sound like me." Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
At doing parts of the interview, you showed him some photographs. You recall that?
Yes, I did, sir.
You showed him a photograph of a cell phone, the victim's cell phone that was on the ground,
I did.
and you told him that this might have been videotaped. Were you bluffing him? Were you lying to him to get him to say something?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay. You also showed him photographs of the victim, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right, may I have a moment?
Yes, you may.
I don't know if we can take a recess or we're all right.
Need a recess? Yes. Okay, court will be in recess for 15 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, put your notepads face down on the chair. Follow Deputy Jarvis back into the jury room. Council approach for just one moment. Can you turn the sound back? Yes, it gets. Okay, court will be in recess for 15 minutes. Yes, Grace. Please be seated. Are we ready to have the jury come back in? Yes. Bring the jury in.
Jury's present, Your Honor.
Please be seated. You may continue.
I want to go back to a few things, investigate.
One of the jurors would like to get your attention.
I didn't know if it was possible in the future, if, like, the interviews are a little hard to make out. I didn't know if
Okay, just so you know that that has come into evidence and you will be able to take it back with you into the jury room and you'll have a way to go ahead and play it. Okay, does that help?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yes, you may.
Investigator Serino, just to make it clear, at about 52 minutes into that interview, the last one there on the 29th, you were playing the recording from Miss Lauer, the Screams for Help, correct? You recall that? The 911 recording?
Yes, I believe so.
Right. And in terms of, you were asking in terms of who it was, when he stated, that doesn't even sound like me. Do you recall that?
Correct, yes.
Okay. You were also referencing when you interviewed him in terms of that there's only 3 streets, and I'm referring now to State's Exhibit number 1. In terms of Retreat at Twin Lakes, there's 3 streets, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
There's Retreat View Circle that circles all the way around, and then there's the main one in terms of Twin Tree Lane, that's right here, goes all the way from the front entrance to the back entrance, correct?
Correct.
And then there's Long Oak Way, that's the 3rd one right there, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And finally, sir, in your interview of the defendant, you showed him several photographs, including the photograph of the phone, photograph of victim, et cetera. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. If I may approach a witness, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
State Exhibit 94, is this one of the photographs you showed the defendant?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
If I may publish that to the jury, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
I'll object, Your Honor, at
Oh.
this point. I don't see any here or at the bench.
At the bench. Yes, you may.
Investigator Sereno, State's Exhibit 94, is this one of the photographs you showed the defendant?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, and is that a medical examiner photograph showing the gunshot wound to Trayvon Martin?
Yes, it is.
Was the purpose in showing this photograph to the defendant to show how skinny, as you stated in the recording, Trayvon Martin was in comparison to the defendant?
One of the purposes, yes.
And does that photograph accurately depict how skinny Trayvon Martin was?
Yes, it does.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross?
Yes, I might.
I'm going to turn this down unless you need it.
Afternoon, officer.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
And how are you?
To set the stage, and I know that you had testified to some of this, though not all of it, in your direct examination. You became the chief investigating officer whose responsibility was the entirety of this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that you were the one who looked at what was done on scene, decided what else needed to be done, tasked that out to the other people who would assist you, and basically led the investigation down the path that it was to go.
Yes, sir.
And in doing that, you assigned different tasks to a number of different law enforcement officers, correct?
Yes, sir.
Gathering evidence was one task that you put out to other officers, correct?
Yes, sir.
Interviewing additional witnesses and sort of setting the stage to get all of the information available that you could, correct?
Yes, sir.
And once you would gather that information, then you would put that together, talk about it with your team. That included everyone up to the chief of police, Bill Lee, correct?
Correct.
And it even included members of the state attorney's office, the 18th Circuit State Attorney's Office, right?
Yes, sir.
It was all part of the investigative team that you were basically in charge of. I won't say that you were in charge of the chief of police, but within the context of this investigation, that you were running that team in order to come up with everything that needed to be done to move this case forward.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You haven't testified to virtually any of that yet, though, have you?
Yes.
You haven't testified to the tasks that were given out to the different officers. You haven't testified to your coordination of all that information coming back together, have you?
As to the methodology of the case, no, I haven't.
Basically, the only thing you've testified so far is the statements from my client.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And let's talk about those statements for just a minute. As you first talked to my client, and I'm not going to test your memory too much, but can you give me the timing? We know this event happened on the 26th of February 2012, about 7:15. When was the first time that you spoke to my client?
At about 5 after midnight on the 27th.
Literally 6 hours after the event happened, correct?
6 hours, 5.5 hours. Yeah.
Okay. And at that point, you knew, as was just testified to before you, that he'd been interviewed by Officer Singleton, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you had that information available to you, correct?
Yes, I did.
You also had the benefit of all of the other information, at least that which was gathered between 7:15 and midnight from Sanford Police Department, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you had been working a lot that night, talking to witnesses and interviewing people, correct?
Yes, sir.
One of those people that you interviewed was the, what we call the eyewitness. I'll ask if you call him the eyewitness, John Good.
Yes, sir.
Remember speaking to him?
Yes, sir.
And he was the one person who actually had eyes on what happened between Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman that night?
Yes, sir.
And you had the benefit of that interview with you as you first talked to Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes, I did.
So when we look at your interview, various interviews with Mr. Zimmerman, is it fair then for the jury to take it in context that you had a lot of information to you at midnight that Officer Singleton did not have?
Yes, sir.
Matter of fact, as I think she testified, she had virtually no information available to her at that point, did she?
From what I know, no, sir.
Right. But you had talked to John Good and several other eye or ear witnesses, correct?
Yes, I had, sir.
Had gathered a lot of that information together either yourself or by tasking other officers who then reported to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And with all of that information sort of as a foundation, you were then able to talk to George Zimmerman and have him walk you through what he perceived to have happened, correct?
During our first interview?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, speaking to the one now at 12:05 a.m. on the 27th, 6 hours after the event.
Yes, sir.
So as we go through it, or as the jury listens to it again, they should keep in mind that when you sort of short circuit through some of the facts with Mrs. Zimmerman, it's because you already know them from other witnesses, correct?
Yes, sir.
You had talked to Officer Singleton, and she had sort of downloaded onto you the substance of the conversation or interview that she had with Mr. Zimmerman, correct?
Briefly, I spoke with her, yes.
Okay. I'm going to go through the February 27th interview with you, but I'm going to ask you first, so that when we go through it, I want you to highlight it for the jury, if there were any significant differences that existed between Officer Singleton's interview several hours earlier and your interview at midnight on the 27th, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Did you notice any significant differences that caused you concern based upon your years of experience as an investigator?
Not immediately, no, sir.
Okay. For example, you had to focus on how the two people first got in contact with each other, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall whether or not you had listened to the non-emergency call by the time you talked to Mrs. Zimmerman the first time?
At that point, no, sir, I had not.
You had not. But you questioned Mr. Zimmerman about whether or not he had followed Mr. Martin, correct?
On our first interview?
Yes.
I may have. I'd have to check the transcript.
Yeah, and I happen to have a partial transcript here. If I were to tell you that you said you reported a suspicious person, he said yes, sir. You said you followed him, and he said yes, sir.
Yeah,
he
so
acknowledged to you that he at least followed and kept an eye on Trayvon Martin, did he not?
yes, he did, yeah.
Was that anything that concerned you?
No, sir.
Okay. You didn't at that point have the benefit of the non-emergency call where the operator asked 2 times in succession, what's he doing now, or words to like effect?
No, I had not.
Okay. Did it seem to you that you did not have that benefit of that
No.
transcript?
No, sir.
Okay. And you also asked him whether or not he had lost visual of the person, correct?
I think I stated to him that he did. I was summarizing what I had known that he had said already.
Because that had come from the Singleton interview, correct?
Correct.
Any concern with that?
No, sir.
And then you had told him at the beginning of the interview that you would like to do a walkthrough or a recreation the next day, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, we've had Officer Singleton testify to this, but obviously he was Mirandized, correct?
Yes, he was.
And affirmatively waived that?
Yes, he did.
And you knew and you had advised him that had he wanted to stop the interrogation at any point, that that was his right?
Officer Singleton did.
Okay. And he never stopped the interview, did he?
No, they did not.
Always was willing to answer all of your questions?
Completely.
Matter of
yes.
fact, I think it was at the end, of course, you stopped the interview, Rhett, and said that at
Yes,
that
sir.
point, you had other things to do with the investigation.
Yes, sir.
And it was briefly, or just a quick check-in with Mr. Zimmerman at that point to get some questions answered, right?
Yes, sir.
And in any of this interview with you, and we're going to go through each one with similar questions, did he evidence any anger or disdain towards Mr. Martin?
No, sir.
Did Officer Singleton even tell you that he wasn't aware that Trayvon Martin had passed away until she told him?
I can't recall, sir.
Okay. The story that Mrs. Zimmerman spoke to you about, and I know that we're going to get into some other interviews that went on later, was there anything in that interview that at the point, well, let me back up, I'm sorry. He was in police custody from the time that Officer Singleton interviewed him until the time you did, correct?
Yes, he was.
And he did not have his cell phone available, did he?
I don't believe so, no, he
Right.
didn't.
He did not have any access then, did he, to the investigation that was ongoing back at the scene?
No, he did not.
So would you agree then that he was unaware of anything that you had discovered as what had happened at the scene?
I could safely assume that, yes, he was unaware.
I used the term that it was sort of a virgin interview, the one that he had with Singleton, right?
Yes.
First time anyone got to him, and that's a police technique, isn't it? You want to get to a shooter, a person who is at least a person of interest, as soon as you can, correct?
Yes, sir.
Before they are infected by additional information, correct?
Yes, sir. We refer to that as locking him into a statement.
Locking them in, okay.
Mhm.
What's the reason for that?
So the information that he provides can be as pristine as possible without being contaminated by outside influences.
Exactly. One of your primary goals as an investigator is to make sure that whatever evidence you can get and keep, as you say, pristine is the way you want to do it, right?
Yes, sir.
That includes pieces of evidence, correct?
Yes.
Which is why we use gloves and forceps and bags and evidence tape to make sure it all stays pristine, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's also why you want to make sure that witnesses stay away from each other. You actually separate them, don't you, so that they don't get a chance to hear what the other one's saying?
Under best circumstances, yes, sir.
Yeah,
That's preferred.
And why do you do that?
It's preferred to keep it pristine, to keep each individual testimony individual.
Right. Because if there are going to be differences in the witnesses' testimonies or statements, you want to make sure that they stay apart from each other so not to sort of collaborate on what they say happened.
Correct.
Whether that is intentional or just a byproduct of hearing what the other witness says, correct?
Correct.
So in this interview process, Officer Singleton had first shot at Mr. Zimmerman and got that and documented it, correct?
So to speak, yes.
Yeah. And then he was kept separate and apart from the investigation so that your interview with him was also as pristine as you could keep it, correct?
Yes, sir.
And would you agree that it was in fact pristine, that he was not infected with any additional information?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That information that you had gathered, though, included information that what John Good had told you, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you were armed with the information of the statement of John Good, which was...
Overruled.
You were armed, you were already the chief investigator at this point, right? It was assigned to be your case?
Yes, sir.
Your responsibility is to find out what all the other witnesses say?
Yes, sir.
So that you can incorporate that into the next witnesses you talk to as best you can?
Yes, sir.
That's what you do, right?
Tie it all together, yes, sir.
Sure. And in tying it all together, when you went to Mrs. Zimmerman during your first interview with him, you had information from John Good and a number of other witnesses, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that interview from John Good that you had available to you, you used when you were questioning Mr. Zimmerman, correct?
Yes, sir.
Of course. You knew that John Good had said... So, Investigator Serino, you had the information available from John Good, as well as other witness statements when you had this interview with Mr. Zimmerman, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you had talked to other ear witnesses, or at least read statements that other officers had gathered together of other ear witnesses as to what they heard, correct?
Yes, sir.
That include Ms. Lauer, who told you she heard what she heard,
Yes, sir.
correct? And her fiancé as well, back then her fiancé, right?
Jeremy Weinberg.
Yes.
Yes.
You had spoken to them yourself, I believe?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So, as you were now going back to Mr. Zimmerman, who did not have this information available to him, tell me what concerns you had with what Mr. Zimmerman told you that night that did not comport to the evidence that you were now aware of.
I had none at that time.
Okay. Did he seem to be cagey in his answering to you? Did he seem to be sidestepping your answers in any form or way to get around answering your direct questions?
No, sir.
Did he seem to do anything that, based upon your training and experience, evidenced to you that he was being less than straightforward with you?
No, he was being straightforward, in my opinion.
I think it was in this interview that you talked to him about the anxiety and nightmares that he was going to have because of this event.
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by that?
Well, based on my experience, people who experience traumatic type scenarios like he went through, they typically end up with anxiety problems. He appeared to be lacking, in my opinion, as far as what was going on, what he was in the middle of. It just seemed that something was going on with him.
Would you call that, sort of in generic terms, a real flat affect or affect as to what was happening?
Generic terms, yes.
Okay. Did that cause you concern that he had in fact gone through a traumatic event and his response was a flat affect about it?
To some point, yes, it did.
Okay. You even said to him, you're going to be anxious, you're going to have nightmares, I'm going to get you some help, right? Didn't you say that to him?
Yes, I did.
What help did you mean that you were going to get for him with what he had gone through?
Any kind of medical attention, medical attention if needed, and that would have branched out to whatever he might have needed himself.
Sure. Psychological intervention, maybe?
After a medical exam, perhaps.
Okay. You have not had to draw your weapon and shoot and kill anyone, have you?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay. But certainly you know fellow officers who have?
Yes, I have.
And it is from that experience that you understand what may happen to a person who has had to shoot and kill somebody?
Objection is to similar situation, unsimilar situation. My objection is to relevance.
It's the same.
May I at least be heard as to the relevance?
It's not relevant what may have happened to other people in other situations.
Yes, Your Honor. Whatever your life experiences have been, it brought you to the interrogation room that night with Mr. Zimmerman suggesting to him that he was going to have anxiety and nightmares and that you would do whatever you could to help him with that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Was he cleaned up by the time that he got to you?
Yes, he was.
Did you see what he looked like at the scene?
I had seen the picture that Officer Wagner had taken of him prior to.
Okay, if I might endorse the witness, Your Honor. Just so we're clear.
When we approach the bench, I have the same objection that was.
Just one second.
Yes.
Yes, you may.
Officer Serino, we had talked about the trauma of having to shoot somebody. Did you also acknowledge to Mrs. Zimmerman that part of the trauma was him getting the injuries he had sustained, getting beat up the way he did?
More so than the shooting incident, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me, with that in mind, let me just show you what the jury has seen now and is already in evidence. And ask you, is that some of what you're talking about, the trauma that Mrs. Zimmerman had gone through? Of course, you didn't see.
That's a trauma he displayed on the night of, correct?
Right. This was the picture that you saw that Officer Wagner had taken of him, correct?
Yes.
You didn't see Mrs. Zimmerman live in this condition because he had been cleaned up?
No, I had not.
And similar to this photograph, remember that photograph?
That's the one that John Manolo showed up.
Yes.
I hadn't seen that before.
Okay. Is that part of the trauma that you were talking about he had gone through?
So I think more specifically the fearing for his life trauma that he was expressing, more than the actual physical injuries, if I may. Yeah.
And it is that or a combination of that that led you to this thought that Mrs. Zimmerman had sort of a flat affect about everything that had happened to him that night?
Yes, sir.
Did it come across to you, though, that he was just uncaring, that he just didn't care that he had gotten beat up and that he had to shoot somebody because of it? Or was it truly your thought that he was reacting to the trauma?
I didn't know him prior to this. It would be included to one of my concerns, yes. However, it could be something totally different. So that was one of the concerns that may have been, that I think he was uncaring or other things were going on.
In the investigation, did he come, in the interview, and we're talking now about the one that happened at midnight, did he seem to be cavalier or uncaring in the way he answered your questions?
Not necessarily.
Anything in the interview that you would point out to the jury where you thought he was acting cavalier? And by that I mean something like, can I go home now? Or are we done here? Or there's a midnight movie I want to catch. Anything like that that showed up in that interview?
Other than potentially making himself unavailable for next day follow-up because he had to go to class.
Right. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. You asked him about doing the interview, the recreation the next day, right? You asked him what time you get off, and he told you, I have class at 6:30. He also told you, I think the next sentence was, but I can skip it?
He may have.
Let's say that that's what the transcript shows. If he said that, does that then address your concern that maybe this guy doesn't care much about the investigation because all he wants to do is go to class?
I wouldn't specifically go there about the whole thing, but it just appeared odd that he had that on his mind based on what just happened to him and what had ended up happening out there. It struck me as being different.
Does that fall in line with your concern that he had this flat affect? That he just wasn't reacting to what he had just gone through, both in having to shoot and kill somebody and in getting those type of injuries from the beating that or the incident that he said happened to him?
Among other things.
Okay. Was it also as concerning to you that he just said, I got to go to work in the morning? After it was midnight, he was still with you, and yet he's planning to go to work in the morning.
That was a little concerning.
Okay. And again, concerning if in fact he was completely uncaring?
Uncaring, among other terms.
Yeah, but not a concern if it was just further evidence of his reaction to the trauma being just going flat on things.
Correct. I mean, hard to say.
Right. But aside from the fact that he seemed to be acting with this flat affect, there was nothing in his words that suggested an uncaring attitude, was there?
No, there wasn't.
Matter of fact, investigator Singleton told you that he didn't even know that Trayvon Martin had passed, and when he had passed, they had a conversation about God and being Catholic, and that he put his head down and shook his head no when she finally told him that Trayvon Martin had passed. She told you that, right?
I don't recall that conversation, but she may have.
Okay. Did anything at all, and I want you to really drill into it, and I'm sorry, I know that you've heard it. I have a transcript of the interview. Would that assist you as I ask you some questions about the interview?
If you have an extra copy, I might have one myself.
Up to the state, if I might. Let me show it to the state first. It's not the official court reporter's transcript, but it may be used to refresh your recollection. Yes. Have this marked, Your Honor, if I might.
Marked for identification, defense exhibit double G. Double I. Oh.
Am I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
I'm not going to have you go through it line by line at all, but basically to use it to refresh your recollection to the extent that we need to.
Okay.
I don't think it's appropriate. So the question is this, and only refer to that document if you need to refresh your recollection. Was there anything in the interview with Mr. Zimmerman on February 27th at 12:05 that was specifically contradicted by the evidence that you had available to you at that point?
No, sir.
As an example, he said he shot once. There was only one shot fired, correct?
Correct.
He said that his head was being hit where it was, and John Good said that they were in that same location. He even told you that
That's the hearsay again.
It's the same.
the witnesses that talked to you about the facts of the event, none of those facts presented by those witnesses contested Mr. Zimmerman's rendition of the facts, did they?
Not at that point, no, sir.
Including witnesses who were right there after the shooting had occurred that saw Mr. Zimmerman, correct? There was no conflict there, was there?
No, sir.
There was no conflict with the initial investigation officer who came on the scene. I think it was Tim Smith. What he told you did not conflict with what Mr. Zimmerman had told you, right?
Not at all, no, sir.
One fact anywhere in that interview that was contested by a fact that you knew from the investigation?
None that I found.
Thank you. Then, if I might retrieve the document, Your Honor. And then if you would remind the jury the next time you had contact with Mr. Zimmerman.
Probably over the phone prior to meeting with him on the 29th.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the next day, I'm sorry, the walkthrough.
That's okay. I was going to remind you.
Later on the day, yeah.
You had contact with him the next day when he came and met with you to do the walkthrough, correct?
Yeah. Technically later the
Recreation.
same day, yes, sir.
Okay. And of course, that's the video that you were here for,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So, he went to work that day, it seemed, because he waited until you got off work, correct?
He made our appointment. I don't know if he went to work or not, but.
Okay. And he was willing to do the recreation still, correct, as we saw on the tape?
Yes, sir.
Any concern with doing that?
No, he was
All right.
available.
Did you notice a similar behavior, we're calling it now this flat affect behavior, even in the video as well?
No, he was a little more animated.
A little bit more resolved?
You could use that word, I would
Okay.
say.
And focus on the recreation, and let me ask you to point out for the jury inconsistencies that you noticed. I'm going to ask you for two types. The first is, tell the jury the significant inconsistencies between that recreation video and what he had told you the night before. Right, let's just start there.
Okay. My interview with him, let me clear this up if I may.
Certainly.
Was a brief overview of what I had, and it wasn't an expensive interview. I can attest to what the interview with Officer Singleton and the walkthrough was based on what I saw. That'd be more fair. I kind of went in there to move things along because I was kind of focused on trying to identify who the decedent was at that time.
What?
I was more focused on trying to identify the deceased at that point.
Right.
So the interview with him was rather short, if you can call it an interview, but I'll try.
Okay, but the one, talking about the interview at midnight, you're talking about, correct?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
But that's where you had at that point, and let me open up the comparison for a moment to say, I also want you to tell us of any discrepancies in the recreation video that existed either in your interview with him at midnight or investigator or officer Singleton's interview with him at 8 p.m. that you had available to you. So as the investigating officer, you've looked at, I'm not going to talk about the other evidence yet, we're going to get to that in a second, but just my client's statements to either Officer Singleton or you the night before and the differences that you noticed in the video.
Okay, sir.
Okay, that's my premise question. So tell me, what are those?
I can't think of none offhand. None specific, none that come to mind right now, no.
Okay. Obviously, you had an opportunity to review all of this information well before today, correct?
Yes, I did.
I mean, you were studying this from the 27th until I think at least March 12th or thereabouts, correct?
I've been studying it, yes.
Right. And that included all of the information and reviewing all of his statements and comparing them, correct?
Yes, but when you say inconsistencies, I can tell you as far as a statement saying they fell as soon as he was hit once.
Sure.
I mean, it's,
Well, let me premise it with this then. In a situation like this where you have what you believe Mr. Zimmerman went through, both parts of that trauma, and multiple interviews of him, would you expect that there are going to be some differences?
Absolutely.
And why is that?
Because we're not robots as people. I mean, not knowing him personally, I don't think I've ever heard of somebody remembering step by step exactly how stuff occurred that they were involved in, unless you're looking from the outside looking in.
Matter of fact, if someone were to come to you and have the exact same story down fact for fact and word for word, sentence for sentence, each time you talk to them, what would you think about that person's honesty or veracity?
Either they're being completely honest or completely false to an extreme.
If you, as a cop on the street, came upon somebody and asked them 3 different times, 3 weeks apart, what happened, and they came up with the exact same story, wouldn't you think they were lying to you each and every time?
It's hard to say. I'm a professional skeptic. It's hard to say.
I guess it's sort of job security being a professional skeptic, right? Sort of
job requirement more.
Yeah, requirement, I guess. Okay. So in your interviews continuing as they were with Mr. Zimmerman, you would expect that things are going to change over time, correct?
Potentially, yes.
You would, and if they were to change in significant ways, if he were to add in some brand new fact or truly change direction, you would note that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Because that would in fact suggest a change not just in the presentation, but in the real substance of it.
Yes, sir.
And you're attuned to look for those as the investigator in this case?
Yes, sir.
Right. And did you notice anything to bring to the jury's attention today that caused you that concern, that spidey sense that something's going wrong with what he's telling you?
Nothing I can articulate, no, sir.
Matter of fact, as we look at that video, as you looked at it, it was quite consistent with what he had told you before, correct?
Yes, sir.
And though it was longer and more was discussed, there was nothing in that recreation where he moved things around or did things differently or suggested things happened in a different location, did he?
Nothing major, no, sir.
Now, let's talk about, and we're building up to what I call the challenge interview. I know that's next, but let's stick on this one, the recreation interview. You, of course, had some more information. You had another day's worth of an investigation, right? Because you were working the case the entirety of the 27th, right?
Yes, sir.
So you had been gathering more witness statements and more of the law enforcement workup that was being done, correct?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree you probably had a dozen or 15 witness statements available to you on the 27th?
Approximately.
Right?
Somewhere there.
And had reviewed all of those in planning for your next communication with Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes, sir.
Did what he say on the recreation video contradict any of the witness statements that you had gotten so far by Friday, or sorry, the 27th at 5 p.m.?
Nothing directly.
Anything at all that you can explain to the jury where you looked at it and said, this piece isn't fitting?
Nothing as far as the information that he had given us, no.
Would you agree that any of the slight inconsistencies that did exist on that video you would sort of assign as just being the way interviews go?
Perhaps, yes.
Well, anything else besides that?
Nothing that comes to mind, no. As far as something that would have triggered something more than just me continuing to talk to him.
Okay. Because at this point, you had fairly specific evidence that Mr. Zimmerman was acting in self-defense that night, correct?
I had information that would have supported that, yes, sir.
Well, you had his injuries, for one, correct?
Correct.
That certainly fit into your formula, did it not?
Yes.
You had a bunch of witness statements, including John Good, correct?
Yes.
And that fit into the self-defense theory that you were looking into, right?
Yes.
Part of your job is to investigate crime, right? I mean, pretty much most of what you do.
Yes, sir.
And in the context of investigating crime, you also, by nature, have to investigate the existing defenses, right?
Absolutely.
You are charged with the responsibility of looking at an event like this and determining whether or not self-defense
Your Honor,
exists.
may we approach the bench regarding this issue?
Yes. We have to take up a short matter outside your presence. If you'll please put your notepads face down and follow Deputy Jarvis back into the jury room. I'm going to ask you to go back and read, please be seated, to the court, the testimony beginning it would be the questions and the answers beginning with the self-defense issues.
And the one right before that, Your Honor, was when I asked him about that he investigates crimes. And I think that was.
Well, I think it goes further beyond that. That's what I'm asking for.
I'll start on a page and pass back. Okay, would you agree that any of the slight inconsistencies that did exist on the video, you would sort of assign as just being the way interviews go? Answer, perhaps yes. Question, well, anything else besides that? Answer, not that comes to mind, no, as far as something that would have triggered something more than just continuing to talk to him. Question, because at this point, you had fairly specific evidence that Mr. Zimmerman was acting in self-defense that night, correct? Answer, I had information that would have supported that, yes, sir. Question, well, you had his injuries for one, correct? Answer, correct. Question, that certainly fits into your formula, did it not? Answer, yes. Question, you had a bunch of witness statements, including John Good, correct? Answer, yes, sir. Question, and that fits into the self-defense theory that you were looking into, right? Answer, yes. Question, part of your job is to investigate crime, right? I mean, pretty much most of what you do. Answer, yes, sir. Question, and in the context of investigating crime, you also by nature have to investigate the existing defenses, right? Answer, absolutely. Question, you are charged with the responsibility of looking at an event like this and understanding whether or not self-defense exists. And there was the objection.
Okay, I think that you're getting very close to the motion in limine that was ruled upon by this court. So,
I'm going to ask if this question be allowed to be answered, and then I'll move on.
Okay. So the objection to anything further would be sustained. You may finish with this one question and then move on. This is Mr. Daly.
I had suggested a moment ago with the timing, if you wanted to address that now. I don't think that I'm going to finish anytime very soon with this witness, so your call as to whether or not we stop now, because they're out already, and then just come back in the morning.
I'm going to ask the jury how far they want to go, if they want to go until 6 o'clock, because it's 5:25. And so let's go ahead and bring the jury back in. Yes.
Very present, Ron.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to finish with Officer Serino tonight. I wanted to get some kind of feel from you as to how late you wanted to stay. If we stayed till 6 o'clock, would that be too much for you? No. Okay, you may proceed.
The last question, I'm just going to restate, so it's not going to be exact, but we were talking about what you do as a law enforcement officer. You investigate crime, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in investigating crimes, you also have the charge or the responsibility to look into whether or not defenses exist, such as self-defense.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was just a continuing sort of overview that you have in all cases.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's move forward. And I think you said earlier there was nothing specifically inconsistent with the statements before and the recreation video, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. Now let's just sort of move forward into your next efforts in this regard. I'm going to then move us up pretty quickly to the next interview with Mr. Zimmerman. But before you got to that next interview with Mr. Zimmerman, tell the jury, if you would, what other actions you were doing as the investigating officer.
From the beginning?
Well, we sort of gone through the 26th, correct, that night, and then we've talked about that you had a dozen or so witness statements you had already gathered on the 27th, and that we had the interview and the recreation interview on the 27th. So moving us from that point forward.
Okay, other than identifying Trayvon himself, and as far as my timeline as far as what I was doing, as far as as it pertains to George?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On the day after, after identifying, well, on the day of the incident, I spent several hours attempting to identify Trayvon, and I spent most of the night doing that, actually. And after identifying him, I had to go ahead and make arrangements to get him released. The interviews that were conducted in preparation for my next interview with George had to be listened to, compared to with a written statement that he provided us. Correct. Okay. And ultimately, not to consolidate it for you, but we had to essentially. We realized that the only person that saw what happened, or how it initiated, was going to be George, because at that point we couldn't find any other witnesses to say how it began, what was the first encounter.
Right. And if I might, I don't want to interrupt you for just for a moment, and then I want to go back on that track. At this point, you did have available to you the non-emergency call, correct?
Yes, I did.
So you did know what Mr. Zimmerman was saying to the non-emergency operator at that point, and you also had Ms. Lauer's 911 call where you heard the screaming, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so with that in context, you were telling us sort of now you're trying to figure out no other witnesses there who can say, I saw them come together.
We could not locate anybody who could say that they saw that exactly. All we had were the 911 calls and the yells in the background, statements from Mr. Good, who actually saw, no reason not to believe him, statements that your client made that corroborated everything else. And that's where we were on that last interview. I had nothing of substance to basically toss at him, to confront him with as far as the interview went, other than suspicious lack of remembering the streets, how many streets he had in his neighborhood, and other oddities, but that would have compelled me to go ahead and keep on interviewing him. So it just didn't quite add up, but would have had to have been further.
So then what you decided to take on, which is another useful police tactic, if you will, is what's called a challenge interview, correct?
At this point, I wasn't ready for one, but yes.
Right, I mean, that was, you were also under quite a deal of pressure to get this case moved forward, correct?
Yes, I was.
And had to move even quicker than you would otherwise have moved on this case because of some of the external pressures that we now know existed in this case.
Yes, sir.
And it was for that reason then that you may have moved a little bit quicker than you otherwise would like to interview Mrs. Zimmerman in sort of this aggressive context, correct?
Yes.
And I'm not saying that as though it's bad when I say
No.
it's aggressive. You're taught how to do this, correct?
Yes.
You're also taught, for example, as a law enforcement officer, how to use the command voice in a situation when you walk in, right? If you need to take control of a couple of people or whatever it is, anything it is, they teach you how to take control, and that is get in their face a little bit, wake them up, use a loud voice, because it works, right?
Yeah, assertiveness, if properly used, it's effective.
And you also learn how to use all your weapon systems, so we know when to use what and how to use it and how to get control, and that's what you do as a cop, right?
Yes, sir.
And you get that both from the academy and you get it from years of experience.
Yes,
And one of those things that you get from those years of experience is what I've called a challenge interview. I don't know if you have a different term for it, but is that what it is?
Don't have a name for it, but it's basically
Yeah.
a challenge interview.
And that's where you go in and you try to undermine a interviewee's story to them, right? Where you challenge them, you sort of, we go back and forth with first you being nice and you're not being nice, and you set them up and then you knock them down, correct?
That's a technique.
And I don't mean to give up your secrets, but
No,
I mean,
not at all. I mean, it's...
these are techniques, the purpose of which is to see if you can break somebody's story, right?
And to discover truth, yes.
Yeah. Particularly in a case of this where you're under a lot of pressure from the outside and don't have a lot of inconsistencies that you need to either get through to Mr. Zimmerman in this case and break it or not, correct?
It's a compound question.
Did you understand what I said?
Repeat it, please.
Sure. Your intent in this case, because of everything that was going on, was that you wanted to get Mrs. Zimmerman in a position where if you could break him, if you could get him to change his story in a significant way, then you can find out he's lying, right?
Correct.
That's one of them, right?
Yes, sir.
At the very least, what you do is you try and crack that door open a little bit, right? Get just a stream of light coming through so that you can really push through it if he's lying to you.
Yeah, I'm seeking, the omission that may be there, the exaggeration that may be there.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
Or the anger that may be there that he didn't show before, or just hit him with something that you might even exaggerate as a problem just to see if he bites, right?